Hello, hello, hello. Check 1, 2. Hello, hello, hello. All right, everything's looking good. Let's get this thing going. Hello, and welcome to yet another Wednesday afternoon song feedback stream. My name is Zaak Kerstetter, and today I'm going to be listening to the tracks that you guys send me and giving you my honest thoughts and opinions about them. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin a link up to the top of the chat. That is going to be where the link to send me a track will go. So just follow that link. It'll take your spreadsheet. Once you're in there, put in your link to whatever. What's up, Julio? How you doing today? And then I will take a listen to them in the order that I received them. Now, generally at the start of these feedback streams, I like to do the rundown of the overall rules and things you just need to know about giving feedback. So we're going to start off with that. So basically, original tracks only. So no remixes, nothing like that. Mostly just for copyright things. So I just don't have to deal with the YouTube copyright stuff. So send me your original tracks. I'm not super interested in hearing remixes, unfortunately. Other than that, ideally, you will be sending me works in progress, so things you're still working on. That way you can take the feedback and keep working on it. However, if you don't have any works in progress, you have something you just released, that's also totally fine, but I tend to prefer it when this works in progress, and that way we can you can take any of my feedback and kind of go from there. Other than that, if you are receiving feedback, if you're submitting a song to receive feedback, you are highly encouraged but not required to give other people feedback. So help each other out, give any feedback, because I might not catch everything. You might hear things I don't hear. You might have ideas I don't have. You might have different opinions than me. And not only is that totally fine, but that is highly encouraged. So feel free to give in your own feedback, and that way we can all work together and kind of work and grow as a team. Other than that, all songs will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis. So just going in order I received them. If you have more than one song you want feedback on, wait until the end of stream. Usually I have time at the end of stream to go through and listen if you have more than one track, but for the time being, one track at a time, just to make everybody's life easier. On top of that, all these live streams get posted to the channel. They're not on like the main videos list. They're on like the playlist page. So if you want to review your feedback later on, you can always check out the recordings of the streams. Also, the spreadsheet that I use for the feedback is the same every week. So if you can't make it to a live stream, you can always put a song in the spreadsheet early, and then I will just, again, get to them in order I see them. And then you can watch the video later on if you can't make it live. Also, all the feedback and what I'm doing here is free. There's no cost whatsoever. I do it because it's fun and I like doing it. However, if you want to help support the channel, you can hit the like button. You can subscribe if you are not already. You can post. You can help tell your friends. What's up, Bones? So there's a spreadsheet that's pinned up at the top of the chat. Click on that. That takes you to the spreadsheet, and then put your track in there. Yes, if you want to support the channel, hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends. All that kind of stuff is really helpful. If you want to help support the channel financially, you can hit the super chat button, and that's like a way of tipping me, which is cool, really cool. You can also check out the Patreon, and I do extra bonus streams over there and fun stuff going on. So those all help support the channel and help me making videos and doing streams like this. Sweet. So that's all of the formal stuff. What's up, Gauntya? How you doing today? I need to message you back, Gauntya. I've been busy, but I definitely want to get back to you. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just dive right into it. So start off, we have a track from Sasha. This is a track he wanted to play last week, but we ran out of time and he had already played a track. So we're gonna start with this one. So Sasha, if you're not around, so Bones, posting links in the chat doesn't work. So you have to click on the spreadsheet at the top of the chat, and that's how you send me your song. But YouTube doesn't like it when people post links in chat. They only let me do that, unfortunately. So check out the spreadsheet and you should be able to go from there. Sweet. So yeah, this is a track from Sasha from last week that we didn't get a chance to listen to. So we're gonna go ahead and listen to that. As always, with the first song of the day, let me know if it's too quiet, too loud, any audio stuff. Let me know what's going on. Yeah, no worries, Bones.
Детство. Рыбки. Детство. Помню, что было. Детство. Рыбки.
Nice. That was pretty dope. I liked it. It like was kind of hard and aggressive, but also subtle at the same time. Like the pad chord sound you have, this guy had this really nice like subtle atmosphere to it, but like the beat was also still kind of driving. So I thought it was like a really cool combination of things, and like it didn't go too heavy, but it also wasn't too light. So it was like this nice in between spot, which I think was a really cool place to be. In terms of things that I might go about changing, I think to me, it's missing two things. It's missing a really solid melodic element to really help kind of like catch my attention. You have some melodic parts, but they're super glitchy. Like I really like this little bit at the end. This thing is really cool. But most of the song, when you're getting that, it's really broken and it's really glitchy and it's really noisy. So there's not like a lot of melodic elements happening in the song. And I think a little melodic layer on there, just like a really simple synthy part could be really cool as a way to help kind of like round out the whole arrangement. The other thing I think would be really cool is a little bit more love on the percussion. I think especially for this kind of like minimal hard techno kind of style you have going on, little tiny changes in percussion can make a big difference. So occasionally toss in some like open hi-hats, like off time, or just like, I don't know, a little more percussion to make it groove. And I think that will make a huge difference. So those two things I think are the like last two steps that really need to have going on here. Other than that, I liked what your kick drum was doing. It sounded like nice and beefy. However, your clap seemed a little all over the place. It was like panning left and right, which I have mixed feelings about. It was kind of cool that it was shifting back and forth, but it also made it like not as powerful as I think it could be. So that one's kind of up to you. If it were up to me, I would keep it more towards the center. But if you still like it panning left and right, maybe keep a little bit of that in there. And then I think also just in terms of sound design, the clap could use a little bit of love. But other than that, I really liked the rest of the sound design. It all sounded really cool. It all seemed like it fit together. The use of the vocals felt really nice. Yeah, those are the main couple of things I'll take a look into. A little bit more melodic elements, a little bit more percussion, and then take a look at that clap. And I think those will make a big difference. Yeah, Bones, I do see your track on the list. It is indeed there. Yeah, Justin, so if you want to share a track, click on the link pinned up at the top of the chat. It takes you to Google Doc, and then just put your link and your name in the spreadsheet, and I will get to it in the order that I receive it. Yeah, very different than your other track, which I also think is really cool. So Sasha, I don't know if you are around yet, but I'm sure you'll watch this video at some point, but really nice work here. Chat, you got any other thoughts, comments, ideas? If this is your track, what are you going to do to it? How are you going to make it better? I think overall the mix sounded pretty quality too. I think some of your noisy parts could be a little bit quieter too. Like keep them there. They sound really cool, but a little quieter. Oh, that's awesome. Bones, you're from South Africa. We get a pretty international crew here. We get people from all over the place, which is really cool to hear music originating in lots of different places all around the world. So welcome. All right, next up we got a track from Julio. And I would encourage you guys in chat, if you have any thoughts or ideas about any of the tracks you're hearing, toss those into the chat because it helps everybody to hear different people's thoughts on their tracks. That's the whole point of doing something like this. All right, so next we got a track from Julio. So Thomas, how are you doing? Nice. Nice, Leo. I think it sounds it sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on here, and I'm digging the direction this is going. I think I agree with a few things that people in chat have said in terms of like the transition here being a little strange and a few things being out of key. But I think you got a lot of really cool ideas going on, and so I want to take a look at a little bit of them one at a time. So to start off, I feel like this piano part right here is really working for me. I think that's doing, it sounds really cool. It sounds really nice. But I'm not sure that leading up into it, it's really working for me. So like this here, it sounds like it doesn't belong with the piano. And so I think what you should probably do is start with the piano, lead in with this as your intro, because I think this going into the beat actually works really well. It almost sounds kind of like a two-steppy garage kind of thing. So I feel like this part is really, really strong. This is the intro. This is your kind of A section. And then we maybe either delete this section here or reconfigure this into other parts later in the song. So this part's working really well for me. And then that synth, that kind of like stabby synth part, I think it would be better to replace it with a more kind of like bassy bass line. Like right now, it's just, I don't know, it's like these kind of like mid-range synthy parts. More of like a low-end plucky synth bass could be really cool instead of that, playing slightly different notes. I think it just doesn't mesh well with the piano. And I think this part sounds cool too. I'm not sure if I'm in love with the snare during this part, but I think the concept works. Yeah, and I think if you spice up that melodic part here, like add another layer to it, I think this part could also work really well. And then again here, that synthy part I'm not really feeling. But if you like maybe either replace that with the chords or replace it with the bass line or both, could be really cool as a final way to end this. Oh, the piano comes back in here actually. Yeah, it's like kind of a different vibe and different direction for you, Julio, and I think it in general is working. I think it's mostly that synthy part I'm not really feeling. I think it could be a bass line with a slightly more complex note structure that fits in a little better. And I think you could be able to like really turn this into a track that really works. And I like that it's like a slightly different style for you. It's like not quite as reggaeton as some of your other stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of that's there. Just some of the sound design and some of the arrangement a little bit could use a little bit of dialing in. Let's see if there's anything else. But I do really like that piano. I think the piano, especially this section right here, like this part's really working for me. So if you take this concept, this kind of idea, and kind of build around that, like use this as the foundation for your track, I think it'd be really cool. But yeah, really solid work. Nice. I think it's also a lot of respect for people who, especially as they're kind of like newer to production, like break out and try different tempos, try different keys. Like a lot of people, I think it's really easy to get in their comfort zone about things where it's like, okay, I always make something at, 120 BPM and that's like my BPM and I always do that. Trying different BPMs can be a great way to learn different things and challenge yourself to do different things. So I appreciate that you're trying new ways to express yourself through your music. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Right, so next up, we got a track from Gontia. And I'm probably going to have to turn this way down. Hey, After Party, how you doing? I don't think I've heard this one guy yet. Nice. Sounds really good to me. Really was digging the arrangement. I like the use of synths where they're not too over the top. They're not too like overpowering. Everything sounds like it complements each other. Everything works together really well. The drums pretty much always sound dope in your tracks. I feel like there's only two really kind of minor things that maybe need to take a look at it. One is I really like your vocal sample, especially when it's used with a lot of space in between it. There's a couple sections though. There's one right towards the end here where you use it a lot and like right in a row, and I think it's a little bit too much. Over here. So in a section like this, there's too much of that vocal sample, I think. But in other sections where there's more space between it, I think it works great. So I would say keep the vocal sample spaced out, or create some more variety of the vocal sample. You know, pitch it up, pitch it down, do different kind of processing to it, so it's not always the exact same thing. I think right now in just like one or two places, it gets to be a little bit too much all the time. And then the other feedback I have was a section right around here, I think. Yeah, there's kind of a section right around the 2-minute mark where it's basically just kind of like those synthy horns and the drums. And I think it works. I think it's okay, but I think it needs one more layer of something on there, whether it's a synthy part or a vocal part. It just needs something to kind of catch my attention because it goes for about 30 seconds at least, and it's just... Like, I like those horns a lot, but there needs to be one more thing going on there, I think. Even if it's something like little and atmospheric, I think that could be really cool. No worries. I'm super guilty of that too, don't you? Just adding those, you find a sound that's really cool and you just want to put it everywhere. But yeah, those are the only two real things I think this track needs some work on. I really love the transition into the second drop here. This part I think sounds really cool. What's up, Presmo? How you doing? Or Primo? Sorry, it's Primo. Like, that part really works for me, and the transition works really well. And I love the last section. So yeah, those are really the main two things I'll look at, but both of them are pretty minor. I think it sounds pretty good as it is. Chat, any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Let me know. Also, if anybody is just joining us and would like to send a track, you can click on the link pinned up at the top of the chat. That takes you to the spreadsheet, and that's where you send me your tracks. On top of that, if you are enjoying the stream, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you are new around here, and we will get to these tracks in the order that I receive them. All right, so next up we got a track from Bones. And Bones, just because this is kind of a longer track, I might skip around a little bit, just so we make sure we got time for everybody. But we'll listen to most of it. Yeah, Thomas, I'll call it some kind of house. It's not quite bass house. Actually, it's not really bass house. I'll just call it, yeah, I'll just call it house. I like this part a lot. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. Damn, that is some clean sounding house music. Really nice work here. I think that this stands out to me as something that there's lots of little tiny details and layers going on here, and I think that it all works. All the synth layers are like tasteful and artistic and like meshed together with all the other parts of the song. Really fantastic work. A couple minor things that I would consider if I were you. Excuse me. So first off, I do think the arrangement is a little slow. I know that's kind of more of the expectation for this genre. I might tighten up the intro a tiny bit because I think once it starts getting grooving, I think it works, but I do feel like it takes a little bit long to get there. If that's what you're into, that's totally fine. But to me, I did feel like the intro could have been a tiny bit shorter because a lot of like the real groovy parts are basically like from 1 minute kind of onward. Other than that, I feel like the mix feels really quality. I like how you have some of those like people talking in the background and they're really, really quiet. So you kind of have to struggle to hear that it's even there. So if I were you, I might turn those up a tiny bit. It also felt like some of your percussion, like your hats and things like that, were just a tiny bit too loud in the mix. So for me, I would turn them also down a tiny bit. I like that your bass was kind of subtle, but it might go up for me, I might also just turn up a little bit in the mix, just because the bass line is so kind of like mellow to begin with, just to make it a little bit more audible. But other than that, I thought the mix was really, really strong. And then lastly, I do feel like a little bit, yeah, the recorded vocals there I think are super cool. I do feel like a vocal sample on this could be really nice. Like, especially if it's like an old school, like soul, like 1960s, 70s kind of soul vocal could be really good. Something that's like not too over top, not something that's not too modern. I don't want to hear a bunch of like modern, pop EDM vocals on this, but some like deep, soulful, just like oohs and ahs kind of thing, I think could go really well. Even like sampling an old blues record or something like that could fit in here really nicely. I think that would really, to me, I think help streamline this last section here, because the last section is fairly long, and I do like that it continually changes and grows and shifts in subtle ways. But I think a little bit of a vocal sample on there, I think will really help separate it from the first half of the song, and also help kind of elevate it in terms of like, all right, there's a new layer of funk or groove going on here that I think could be really nice. Other than that, like I said, synth work's fantastic, layering is fantastic, everything grooves really well. I think this track is really, really solid. But little tiny things, couple of tiny things with the mix, couple tiny things with the arrangement, and like I said, put like a blues sample on there, and I think that would be like, that's all you need. But yeah, super solid work here. Appreciate you sharing that. Chat, you got any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? One of the things I like to recommend when you're given feedback is think about, okay, if this is your track, what's the next thing you do to it? So you know, maybe you'd be like, yeah, I'll put saxophone on it or whatever. Whatever you're feeling, and that's helpful information for whoever's receiving that feedback. Nice. Yeah, I see a bunch of people are talking about in chat switching over to Ableton, which is great because my channel is based around Ableton, but I think it's much more about the person than it is the tool. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with, but you did a really nice job here. It sounds really, really good, and I'm pretty judgmental about house music, and I really like this track, and I could definitely hear this being played at like, afternoon party at Burning Man, or like a beach party somewhere. All right, next up we got a track from Baby J. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit.
It was you, the one who brought me down. I got up, look at me now, and I showed you what.
Also, I have to do this anytime there's like a hip hop track. Is this you on vocals or on the beat or both? Baby J, if you're in chat, let me know.
Different from these niggas who be in the crowd, trying to show you what I'm about. Fuck my heart, you took it out. Thought you was different from these bitches. I know I done pipe down. Get my love right to this bitch, she took it all the way, yeah. I probably done lost all of my time when you were wrong. I know that you hate thinking about the past and how we had it, yeah. But I ain't losing faith, ain't giving up on you, no. Yeah, I ain't giving up on you, babe. I probably done cried a couple times thinking about what you said. And I know that you hate being by yourself, moving on to new things. I gotta get focused on my bag into a new lane. And I know I've been broke so many times, but I can't show. And this love shit really hard, can't let you go. If you wanna leave, send my regards, just let me know. And I've been hurt so many times, I'm feeling cold, yeah. When it comes to it, I think I'm better off alone. Can't put trust into a bitch, only in my bros. Tell you how I feel, I keep it real, not like these hoes, yeah. No, I can't buy no bitch, no wedding ring. Can't let niggas get ahead of me. Know this life been getting hard, I won't give up until my niggas eat. And I remember times when I seen friends turn into enemies. Every day I'm going hard, I won't stop, I'll never get no sleep. It was you, the one who brought me down. I got up, look at me now, And I showed you I was different from these niggas who be in the crowd. Tryna show you what I'm about. Fuck my heart, you took it out. Thought you was different from these bitches. I know I done pipe down. Give my love right to this bitch, she took it all the way, yeah. I probably done lost all of my time, you wrong. I know that you hate thinking about the past and how we had it, but I ain't losing faith and giving up on you, no.
Is that you on guitar too, or is that just a guitar sample? Nice. I think overall this track works really well. Yeah, all the elements are there. I think for the most part it's sounding really, really good. I think there's a few elements that need a few minor changes to help clear up the mix a little bit, and I think you're good to go. So to start off with the drums, I like the big boomy 808 kind of drum, but I feel like it needs a more impact, it needs a more punch to it. So I would find a more kind of like punchy 808 that doesn't have the really long tail to it, and layer that up with the boomy 808, and that way you get this nice kind of like impact, and then the tail is that kind of boom. I think that'll help like really make the rhythm feel more impactful. And then your clap is like a feedback loop. Sorry about that. The clap sounds really good, but it needs a little bit more processing. So a tiny bit of reverb and a little bit of compression go a long way on those like straight up 808 claps, and it makes them sound night and day, totally different, and better usually. Your snare is a little bit quiet to me, so I'd maybe turn that up.
Yeah, I ain't giving up on you, babe. I probably done cried a couple times thinking about what you said. I know that you...
I also feel like your hat, I like your hat pattern quite a bit, but I think it could go up a tiny bit in volume, and I wouldn't mind that. And then the vocals, the main vocal layer I think sounds really good. Whatever you're doing to process it sounds pretty solid. It sounds like the auto-tune is maybe a little bit too heavy than what I would do personally, but I think it works for the style and what you're doing. Some of your background vocals, however, though, are number one, a little bit too loud, and number two, a little bit too much delay reverb kind of processing going on them. So I would make them a little bit more subtle in the mix, and also more subtle in terms of the process you're doing to them. And I think that will clear up more space so you can hear your main vocals even better. And then other than that, I really like that guitar part. It might be kind of nice at some point in the song to have a little bit of a bridge where you just don't have any vocals going on, or maybe just some like background kind of vocals. And that way you can emphasize the guitar for a second and then go back into another verse or another chorus, somewhere like around here. Because I think the guitar is really cool. And that way you could have like a little interlude, just a couple bars of the guitar by itself, and then you bring the vocals back in with the drums. Other than that,
I never get no sleep. It was you, the one who brought me down. I got up, look at me now. And I showed you I was different from these niggas who be in the crowd. Trying to show you what I'm about.
Yeah, I like how you kind of go a little over the top with the reverbs and delays on the piano and the guitar, and it creates this very kind of like swirling atmospheric background instrumental. And I think that kind of works. I think it actually sounds really cool.
My heart, you took it out. Thought you was different from these bitches. I know I done pipe down. Give my love right to this bitch, she took it all the way, yeah. I probably done lost all of my time, you wrong. I know that you hate thinking about the past and how we had it, but I ain't losing faith and giving up on you, no.
Yeah, I think a little more emphasis on that guitar I think could be really cool. Whether you want to give it its own section or not, it's up to you. But maybe create a little more room in the mix to hear it a little better. But yeah, like I said, overall, the track works. I think it sounds really good. Everything works together really well. It's mostly the drum production and then not going quite so over the top on some of the vocal processing. And I think if you can dial back the vocal processing and then dial up the drum processing, you're good to go. It's going to sound really clean. It's going to sound dope. Sweet. Well, thank you for sharing that. Chat, any other thoughts, ideas? Let me know. Sweet. Next up, we got a track from, who is this from? Thomas. Yeah, if you want to send a track, click on the link pinned up at the top of the chat. Thanks, London's Grammys. Appreciate it. London's Grimiest, you just paste your link in the spreadsheet. Nice work, Thomas. Which of those instruments did you play, and which of them are in the box? What of those are digital instruments, and what are things you played live? Because it might affect how I give my feedback a little bit. Yeah, London's Grimiest, you look good. We will get to it as we kind of go down through the list of people. Yeah, this sound is dope. It's like very different vibe than the other tracks been listened to today, but has a really nice like emotional quality to it. Really nice melodies. Like everything works really well together. There's one big issue and then a couple of really tiny issues, but overall, I'm really feeling just the vibe of this. It's like, it's really pretty. Everything works together. Like it sounds like a band. So the big thing I want to talk about first is the drums. And it makes sense that the drums are the sampled instruments here because especially the snare. The snare sticks out like a sore thumb. The kick, the hat, and most of the drums are pretty solid, especially for sampled drums. But the snare has this very kind of thwacky feel to it. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just too much. I think you want more of a chill, light snare, almost even like a brush kind of snare to fit in with the vibe of the rest of this track. So swap out that snare sample. It's definitely like, it was driving me nuts. You also have these tom fills all over the place. I'm not opposed to the concept of the tom fills, but they definitely had a very kind of Phil Collins-esque kind of vibe to them every time I heard them. So maybe you want to either tone those down, swap them up a little bit, kind of think a little bit about how you're using them. Again, the concept of the tom fill is great, but it's a little bit like too much, considering how like subtle the rest of the track is. Other than that, I love the piano, everything you recorded. I loved the guitar, love the pianos, love the saxophone. I do kind of feel like, especially in the last section here, the saxophone, there should be like maybe 2 or 3 layers of saxophone, all playing slightly different things, and that way it kind of like fleshes out to become this like bigger kind of concept at the end. Yeah, you could even do like a call and response with yourself, like have your first saxophone part and then have like another one respond to it. I think that'd be a really cool way to really kind of like elevate the energy and emotionality of the end of the track there. Other than that, I really liked the use of it. Sounds like you're using like a shimmer reverb, like Valhalla Shimmer, especially in this. Where's the break section? This section here. Like you go really heavy and really over top with the reverb, and I think it pays off here and it works really well. And I noticed that also at the end of the track as well. So really nice use of the reverbs there. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Like I said, fix up the drums a little bit, and the rest of the track I think sounds really solid overall. The mix sounds really clean. I love like everything sounds really natural, and it's because you played it yourself. Oh, it's Crystallizer. Nice. Crystallizer is a sick plugin. Yeah, really let that saxophone carry the end of the song there, because I think it sounds really cool. Sweet. Yeah, really solid work here. I love the diversity of tracks that we're getting, not just today, but usually on the Wednesday stream. But it's awesome. We're getting like so many different styles all in a row. All right, next up we got a track from Primo. And I appreciate all you guys coming by and giving out feedback to each other. That's really what makes this whole thing really fun, is hearing what other people have to say about each other's tracks and all kind of working together. Nice. I feel like conceptually here, it's working really well. I like this kind of like pseudo electronic, but also kind of like rock and roll kind of vibe you got going on. And I think I like the kind of like grittiness of the whole thing. I agree with what people have been saying in chat in terms of um, the vocals getting lost in the mix. And I want to talk about that in just a minute because I think that's probably the biggest thing you need to take a look at. The only other thing I do want to mention is I really was digging into this guitar solo. Maybe put the guitar solo a little bit earlier in the song because I think it's a cool way to kind of like break up some of the vocals a little bit and just, again, give that guitar a little bit of time to shine because I think the guitar part was really cool. So when it comes to mixing, let me give you my like 2-minute version of how to get better at mixing. So when you're making your song, you have all your different layers, right? You have your drums, your bass, guitars, your vocals, your synths, all the different parts of your song, right? And within those different elements of the song, think of it as like a hierarchy. There are sounds that are more important than other sounds, and there are sounds that are less important, or there are sounds that are like the main characters, and there are sounds that are the supporting characters, right? And so as you listen to the song, and this is a really good exercise to do as you're listening to other people's music, think about what are the most important sounds? What do I want my listener to be focusing on? And what's the order, right? So in a song like this, vocals, when they're happening, are probably the highest thing, right? And then after that is probably going to be the guitars. And then after that might be the drums or the synth layers might be kind of tied. And after that might be any kind of like, background chords or pads or something like that. And it's going to be different for different genres, for different styles, right? So if you're making like EDM music, kick drum's got to be the most important thing, and then probably the bass line, and then probably, or bass line / vocals might be tied, and then snare after that, and then other synth part or melody. I don't know. It's different depending on what you're doing, right? So as you're listening to this track, close your eyes and think about, what is my brain paying attention to? What are the things I'm focusing on? And then ask yourself the question, is that what I want my audience to be focusing on at that given time, right? So as I'm hearing this, I can hear the vocals pretty clearly, but the vocals are competing with lots of other sounds, right? So what you need to do is like make a hierarchy of your sounds. And then essentially there's 3 main techniques you can use to actually create that hierarchy the way you want it to be, right? The main one is going to be volume. Our brains naturally gravitate towards louder sounds, right? It's like a survival mechanism from like when he lived in the jungle. Like louder sounds means you pay attention to it, right? So the louder a sound is, the more present it's going to be in the mix, right? So things that are supporting sounds, turn them down. Things that are main character sounds, turn them up. And then you can also use panning. Panning works really well to help spread out your mix left and right. And that's a great way to create space so that you can hear things you want to do. So again, more kind of supporting sounds, put more off to the left and right side. More kind of main character sounds, put more towards the center. And then the third technique is going to be EQing. And this is going to be really important in this song for you because you have a lot of sounds. You have like guitar and you have piano and you have a bunch of other stuff and all the distortion that all lives in the same vocal or EQ range as your vocals. So what you're going to need to do is use EQs to cut out sounds and frequencies that live in the same range as your vocals, and that way they'll shine through clearer because they're not competing with as many other frequencies. So those are the main things you can do to kind of focus on this. The big thing for me is just by, thinking about, listening to and thinking about music in terms of most important to least important, and then essentially mostly just using volumes to actually make that happen. So like close your eyes when you listen to music and see what sticks out and what's in the back. And do this to your favorite songs, and then you can learn a lot about mixing from your songs that you really like to listen to. Like, okay, how loud is the vocals compared to the snare drum? How loud is the snare drum compared to the kick drum? How loud is the chords compared to the melody? Like, be listening to all this stuff as you're listening to music, and it'll make you 100% better at mixing. It's probably the best thing you can do to become better at mixing. So yes, that's really what you need to do here a lot, is just kind of prioritize things. You do have a lot of those sounds with like a lot of distortion and mid-range kind of sounds. And so you're going to have to like dip EQs a little bit to create room. You have to turn volumes down. But I think that's the biggest thing you need to do here. And once you do that, the rest of the song will kind of like fall into place. Let me listen to it again, see if there's anything else I noticed, but that was the big thing. It's also a little hard to tell because there are a lot of things going on here. One thing that will eat up a lot of space in your mix is too much delays or too much reverbs. So watch out for those and maybe dial those back a little bit because they can just bounce around in your mix and just fill in space that you want to be clear so you can hear your sounds better. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of delays and things bouncing around. I think dialing those back will also create a lot of space in your mix. But yeah, overall, I like what's going on here. I think it sounds cool. Another thing that also will probably help with the vocals is vocal layering. I talked about this a little bit on stream on Monday, but instead of just having one layer of vocals, have multiple layers of vocals. They could either be the exact same vocal recording, but with different processing, different kinds of effects, or slightly different recordings, so they're not all exactly the same, that you also process and panel differently. And that will also help the vocals feel a lot more powerful because you can have multiple versions all kind of doing the same thing or similar things at the same time. Yeah, I'm super guilty of going overboard, especially with reverbs. So sometimes I know it hurts, but you got to dial back those reverbs a little bit and that'll make a big difference. Okay, cool. Yeah, I couldn't hear a lot of the vocal layers, so maybe you want to bring some of those up a little bit, and that will also help the vocals stand out in the mix a bit. But yeah, it sounded cool. I like it. I think one of the big things to point out here is really solid use of the distortion. I think the distortion on this track adds a lot of character, adds a lot of tone to it. I think it sounds really good. All right, next up we got a track from Zaak, different Zaak that's not me. Yeah, mixes with a lot of distortion are a lot harder to mix than really clean ones, for sure.
It's that feeling that makes you wanna. It's like bringing life straight out of your soul.
Nice. Overall, I think it sounds really good. It definitely has like that nice kind of like clubby, housey kind of feel to it. Do you feel like it's missing one or two layers? I think to me, the big thing would be a really strong melody. I think that would really help tie the whole thing together. Like a plucky synthy sound could go really well. Yeah, Jason, I saw it. I'll get it in the spreadsheet in just a moment. Like a plucky melody, something to really like, I don't know, capture the listener, I think would go a long way, because it feels like it's got all the foundational elements there, but it needs one thing to like really like help make it stand out amongst all the house tracks that are out there in the world. So a melody would be really cool. This could be vocals. I would go with a plucky synth. You could go for a more kind of organic melody if you wanted, with like a piano. Up to you. Something melodic in here, I think would go a long way. The other thing I think could use a little bit of love is you have this kind of like stabby chord that happens. That little stab chord. As far as I can tell, it never changes throughout the whole track. So it'd be cool if it shifted up or down, played some different chords, as a way to help kind of like keep the emotional arc moving a little bit. I like that you do these kind of call and response later on with it. But as far as I can tell, it's literally the same chord over and over again. Yeah, so I like this call and response you have with those other sounds, but a little more variety in terms of that chord. Just pitch it up, pitch it down. Pretty easy, and I think it'll sound really good. I feel like you're right on the border with the vocal sample. I feel like if you used it any more, it'd be too much, but I think right now it's kind of like in that spot where it's not too much. And I like the subtlety of your bass line. I think it could be a little bit louder and a little bit more noticeable, and I would not mind that. Or maybe swap it out with a more kind of like plucky bass line occasionally. I think that could also be kind of cool. But yeah, other than that, I think it's sounding pretty good. I'm just going to jump around a little bit, see if there's anything else I noticed that I forgot about. I like the bongos a lot. Yeah, I think it'd also be really nice. I'm not sure if you've gotten to this point yet, Zach. If the second kind of beat section was a little bit more different than the first one. Like they're mostly the same as far as I can tell. Yeah, so some new layers, some new something going on in here. I think it'd be really cool for the second half. But overall, I think it sounded really good. I think the drums sound really solid. I like the percussion. Kick sounds pretty good. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Chat, you got any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Let me know. All right, next up we got a track from London's Grimiest, and I think you said in the chat you're in MC and you got somebody who's making the beat. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's LG, baby. 2022. Yeah. I said, leave me alone. I wanna stay deep in my zone. Each to their own. The green's like the key to my throne. The one I sit on when I'm writing these poems. With beats for the flow when I'm deep in my zone. I said, leave me alone. I keep my phone disconnected, beat selected in this heat for the flow. Don't wanna hear nothing about no drama. I wanna stay deep in my zone. So leave me alone. I got my feet up at home. It's where I rest best, making music with Mary Jane. It's the best blessed. I love being deep in my zone, so don't blow my bars with the worries and the woes of the world. Outside the door, everything is going to shit. That's why I just sit here, me and my spliff, where everything is flowing with bliss. That's why I said, leave me alone when I'm deep in my zone. I said, leave me alone. I wanna stay deep deep in my zone. Right now, that's where I belong. I said, leave me alone. I wanna stay deep in my zone. Right now, that's where I belong. I said, leave me alone. I wanna stay deep in my zone. Right now, that's where I belong. I said, leave me alone. I wanna stay deep in my zone. Me and my spliff deep in my zone.
Chasing dreams, I'm used to fiend routines evade me. Leave me alone, baby. Us people give you that raw sound from the underground as LG. We bouncing around, check this, gifted as a child, run wild, run them council estate, looking for an escape, fuck's sake, a ticking time bomb, ready to explode with a short fuse, distorted fuse, excuse me? People preaching, telling me to sleep, I have to tell the fam, I ain't feeble and weak, the universe opens its curtains as I tweak, I spark my spliff for a treat, yeah it's sweet, got my headphones on, I'm so deep in my zone, wanna throw a dog a bone, don't mean to groan, let me stimulate my mind, spiritually entwined, when I have music and green at the same time.
Leave me alone, I wanna stay deep in my zone. Right now, that's where I belong. I said, leave me alone, I wanna stay deep in my zone. Right now, that's where I belong. I said, leave me alone, I wanna stay deep in my zone. Right now, that's where I belong. I said, leave me alone, I wanna stay deep in my zone. Me and my spliff deep in my zone.
Yeah, man, that was dope. I really like that. Definitely like brings me back to when I was in college and listened to a lot of like old school boom bap hip hop. Yeah, love the instrumental. Definitely like it sounds exactly the way it's supposed to. Drums sound really solid. I love the guitar, I love the chords in there. However, the vocals, the actual rapping itself, was great. Fantastic. Loved the verses, loved the chorus. It's really solid. However, the vocal recording and the vocal processing, I think, could be a little bit more dialed in. I guess I probably would need to like see a little bit more about your mic setup and your recording setup to kind of see how it was all done. But there's something a little bit breathy about the quality of the vocals, which I think could be caught by either recording with a gate or something like that. So that way a little tiny like little breaths in between the words don't get caught in the microphone. You could also do that in post-processing after you've already recorded. So just make sure that, number one, you have a decent amount of gain going into your recording software or wherever you're recording, and that'll make it easier to process. So cleaning up the vocals in terms of your vocal signal chain and how you do all that, I think will make a pretty big difference and make your life way easier, because when you record clean vocals, it's easier to process them later. Whereas if you record kind of clean vocals, it's much harder to fix later on in post. Not to say that these were recorded poorly, but there definitely was like a little bit of breathiness that I heard in some of the performances, which can be fixed entirely through fixing recording or processing a little bit afterwards. Other than that, I think a little bit of compression across all the vocals will go a long way to really help kind of like elevate the volume and make all the vocals kind of like sound consistent with each other, but also bring them out in the mix a little bit. So individual vocal compression on each person individually, and then maybe like a group compression on the entire vocals to help bring it out a bit more. But that's basically it. It's mostly like if you guys can like dial in some of those recording and processing of the vocals, you guys are good to go. This sounds really, really good. I really like it. But if nothing else, a little more compression on the vocals, and I think that'll like really make the vocals pop and make them stand out a little bit. Don't go too over the top with the compression, but just a little bit. It's gonna make all the difference in the world. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling. That's really the only feedback I have about it is that. Chat, any thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Yeah, so we are getting pretty close to the end of the list. Actually, some more people added stuff. You're definitely allowed to send me another track, but I won't be able to get to it until I get through one track of everybody. Also, all of the streams get uploaded to the channel. So if you just toss something in the spreadsheet, you can come back in later on and just go to the end of the video, and I'll take a look at it by the end of the stream, and you can watch it whenever you want. But we'll probably be able to get through the rest of the tracks in less than 40 minutes, because that's when I end stream anyway. Sweet. So next up we got a track from After Party with video included.
The world of human feelings has been much less explored than the whole of the universe put together. What have we been doing all these thousands of years?
It's a useless sacrifice.
Nice. After Party. This is one I've heard before, and I've been hearing the progress of it, and I'm liking where it's at. I honestly don't really have a lot of critical feedback here. I think the style-wise, it sounds awesome. The drums sound really solid. Love the lo-fi nostalgia-esque synth parts. A lot of my regular feedback I have for you. I do feel like the drums are a little bit too muted. It sounds like you have like a little bit of like a low pass filter on them or something. And if we're up to me, I might lessen that a little bit, or maybe just bring out the kick a tiny bit more. That might just be my personal preference, in that I like having really loud kicks in my mixes for a lot of the music I like to make. But other than that, I just don't really, I think this track's basically done. I know you're kind of like, gearing up to release a bunch of your tracks as an album. So I'm not sure if this is like how close you are to being ready. But this is sounding pretty ready to me. Besides that one little tiny thing about the drums. And like, you don't need to fully take off that filter, but maybe just lessen it a little bit. And maybe bring up the main melody part a tiny bit in the mix, like just a hair. Yeah, a little more on the melody, a little less the filtering on the drums, and I think this track is basically good to go. I'm digging it. I'm not sure what I would call this. I feel like I would call it whatever you would call Boards of Canada, which is IDM, but I don't know if this quite qualifies as IDM. Maybe. Something IDM-esque. Yeah, chat, thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, ideas? Let us know, because I think it sounds pretty good. I'm really digging it. All right, next up we got a track from Jagwag.
Oh my, I seem to feel so much better when it kicks in. Chemical kitchen, feel my brain destruct. Oh, diazepam me. Turn that volume down on my demons and you give me relief just for a second and you make it all so numb. Oh, why diazepam do you make me feel like everything's not dissolving? Spinning goals are evolving. Swallow a tablet, I'm overindulging. I've tried diazepam to be the optimist and resist cause folding. You're the crutch that I'm holding. Don't want tomorrow, cause right now I'm golden.
I mean, it's short. I mean, it sounds like it's, you know, you're still working on it. But I dig it. I think the vocal works really well. I like the big kind of Reese bass you have going on here. I think the Reese bass could be even more grimy. I think like adding a little bit more of that kind of chorusing sound to it could be really cool. Maybe a tiny bit of distortion, and I wouldn't mind that. Just to make it like just make it huge. I'm not sure if you are already, but I found on this kind of sound a little bit of a notch filter, and then giving a little LFO to the notch filter is a nice way to also add like a little bit of like motion or movement to that kind of grimy bass sound.
You make me feel like everything's not dissolving. Spinning goals are evolving. Swallow a tablet, I'm overindulging. I've tried diazepam to be the optimist and resist cause folding. You're the crutch that I'm holding. Don't want tomorrow, cause right now I'm golden.
Yeah, I feel like it needs one kind of like synthy part to come in halfway through here to help kind of build the energy. And then I'm assuming you do like turn this into like full on drum and bass kind of thing going on with it. And you like chop up the vocal samples. But yeah, I like what you got going on with it. Yeah, and then here you go into like a build up and then make it a whole thing. Yeah, you 100% should keep working on this. I think it sounds really cool. Patch Party, I appreciate the super chat. That's awesome. You guys, I say this at the beginning of stream, but most of you guys weren't there for that. But all the feedback is stream. All of the feedback is free on the stream. But if you guys want to, you can super chat me if you want. You can also check out the Patreon, which is linked, I think, in the description if you want to help support the channel and what I'm doing here. Sweet. So I think at this point we have gotten through at least one track from everybody. And we got 2 tracks from people who have already submitted a song. But if anybody out there is either just joining us or has not yet sent in a track, now would be a good time to do so, because we're going to jump in and get tracks from people that have already sent one in, because we got a little bit extra time today. Also, for these guys who are new around here, I don't know why the Patreon link isn't hyperlinked. It should still work in there. I'll take a look at how to fix that. Anyway, for those of you guys who are new around here, I do this every Wednesday. Just you guys can come in and give me your tracks, and I will give them feedback because it's something I like to do. And then I do a Monday afternoon office hour stream where you can come in and ask questions about music production stuff. And then on Tuesdays, I do a Patreon stream. What's up, Starbeast? How you doing today? All right, so this is another track from Zaak. And just so anybody knows, any songs that are over like 5 minutes, I might jump around a little bit just to make sure we got time for everybody. So yeah, I'm stoked to hear your track, Starbeast. This is dope. I'm digging this so far. This is Zaak. This is sounding good. skip around a little bit. Yeah, so no offense to the song that you submitted earlier today, but the song is way better. The song is really dope. I'm really digging it. Definitely has like a Jean-Michel Jarre kind of vibe to it. Really digging the like arpeggiated synthy parts. Love the atmosphere parts. I honestly feel like some of the like the intro and the more kind of like atmospheric section were some of like the highlights of the whole track. So in terms of what you could do from here, I think the big thing to me is because the synth parts and the atmosphere parts are so well done, your bass line feels not quite as impactful. It doesn't feel quite as like big and huge. So on both sections, the first one and the second one, I think that bassy synth line there needs to be much, much bigger. It's okay right now. I think it's working, but beef it up, make it sound huge, because I think that's going to drive a lot of energy in there and help kind of balance out between the, you know, arpeggiated synthy part to the bass line. Other than that, I feel like the drums felt a little bit under-processed. It wasn't a huge thing. I just think that like you could do a little bit more in there and I wouldn't mind it. But it's not like a make or break kind of thing. I think the drums are fine. The drums have a very 80s kind of feel to them. If that's what you're going for, great. If you want to give them a more modern feel, I might process them a little bit more. Love this part. Some of it reminds me a little bit of Nero, a tiny bit. I think if you wanted to put vocals on here, I could hear them, and I think that that could work. If you want to keep it instrumental, I'm also totally cool with that. But yeah, to me, the big thing is beef up that bass line, really give it some more power, and I think that'll make a big difference there. Chat, any other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments? What would you do here? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would do to it, but I think like this part, the intro is amazing. I say this a lot to a lot of people who are making any kind of dance music or dancey music. A little more percussion in there could go a long way. Right now, you just kind of have the off-time hat, which I think works, but you'd be surprised, but a little bit of like a shaker or something like that can do to your beat. So think about that as well. But yeah, really solid work, really digging, especially the arpeggiated synth parts. I've been really big on arpeggiators myself recently, so I can totally get behind that. All right. And then, Jason, I forgot that you sent me that link, and then I remembered. And so I put it in the list. So we'll get to it after this one. So just let you know I haven't forgotten about you. Yeah, I agree with Starbeast. A little bit of ear candy, I think, would go a long way.
You to judge, we do what we love and rising above, yo. So who are you to judge? I'm rising above by doing what I love and not giving a fuck. So who are you to judge? We do what we love and rising above, yo. So who are you to judge? We going all out by doing what we love and not giving a fuck. What you know about that London town underground? Love the sound or hate it? We made it with dedication, lots of herbs and meditation. Raising waves became chained to words, it's resonating. Enthusiasm for lyricism, words of wisdom echo in the walls of these four prisms and cause resistance to thwart the system. They coming for us soon, that's why I bought this pistol. Moving through these moons with an awkward wiggle, ducking from the hawkeye that's on some stalking chisel. We taught the little ones resources that I fought to ripple through generations that fought a little for survival. Preparation to bring about a revival. We giving out riddles to figure out like the Bible. It's time for the tidal. Break your neck while listening to this, I'm not liable. Corporations want depopulation. They stalk the nation with diabolical brain conditioning. So they laser focus,
See you later, guy.
it's over us, it ain't over. We're still coping, there's gaining hope in us as minds open up. The lone stone wolf on my own too, but that involves you. We underground, so how about you dig us out by giving us a shout? We going all out and doing what we love, so who are you to judge? We doing what we love and rising above, yo. So who are you to judge? I'm rising above by doing what I love and not giving a fuck. So who are you to judge? We doing what we love and rising above, yo. So who are you to judge? We going all out by doing what we love and not giving a fuck.
Now I'm attacking from a different angle. The animal, the old savage goon. I only speak the truth. The city of London, yeah, we be trapped in. Especially if the feds, they be catching. Thankfully, where we come from, an unwritten rule. We leave the smoke, see to flow untouchable. Though they take out our brothers to keep up the numbers. The Babylon pigs, the hungry motherfuckers. What you know about a London town underground sound? Love it, wow. We made it with dedication, lots of herb and meditation. An ideal, sticky situation. Who are you to judge unless your clientele of mine suggests you get in line? Strictly green, not China white. Unless it's party night, this is party night.
Who are you to judge? We doing what we love and rising above, yo. So who are you to judge? I'm rising above by doing what I love and not giving a fuck. So who are you to judge? We doing what we love and rising above, yo. So who are you to judge? We going all out by doing what we love and not giving a fuck.
Nice. Overall, it sounds really good. Again, the really solid beat. It works really well with the vocals. It definitely like the style is there in, and you got a lot of it. I do feel like some of the similar feedback on this is the last one, although it's not. The vocals here sound a lot better than they do on the other track. However, they definitely still feel a little bit quiet in the mix. And again, the answer to you guys is going to be really dial in your vocal compression. If you can get that right, you're good to go. You're like, your vocals are going to sound really dope and really clear. I did hear a couple little vocal breaths in here, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the other one. But keeping that in mind as you're recording, make sure your gain is good going into your however you're recording. And then afterwards, I think with this style of hip hop, you don't want to go too crazy with the processing, but I do think you do need a bit of processing on the vocals. And sometimes like just the tiniest hair reverb, a little bit compression, and like it's night and day out there. So I would really look into what kind of techniques artists are using for processing their vocals for this style of music. It's going to be pretty minimal, but it's definitely going to be there. But yeah, that's going to be it. That's the main thing. And then other than that, I would say the next real step for you guys is, get an in-house producer, get somebody who you work with, who you can like work together with on beats. And then you don't have to buy beats. And that's also that's a great way to really help establish your sound, get like a consistent sound with your beats. And kind of like that to me is kind of like the next step from here, because the buying beats is okay. But when you have somebody you can work with and, you can be like, hey, can you change this one thing? And then they change it, and then you work together and have like a combined creative vision is really fantastic. But I know that can be hard to do, to find the right person. But yeah, really, really solid work. Sweet. Next up, we got a track from Dig the Cat. Nice. Yeah, I'm digging the energy on this one. It has this like really nice kind of happy vibe without being kind of cheesy. I feel like all the sounds fit in really well together. I feel like if it were up to me, there's this section right here, and then it kind of does it again over here, really stands out as like, oh, this is really where the track gets into it. So I feel like I was kind of hoping there would be that kind of some kind of synth line like this one. And so more like that could work really well, kind of spread out throughout the entire track. I know you use it in different places, but more variations on that kind of concept where you have this kind of like lighter, prettier synthy part happening, I think add a lot of value to different parts of the song. So more stuff like that would be really cool. I feel like you're doing a really good, solid job on the percussion here. It's definitely like keeping me engaged. I like the reset here. I really like that synthy part you have playing the chords. I wonder if we could get a little bit more variety on that or have it change up a little bit more as the song goes on. Like I like the chord progression quite a bit, but because it's such like an abstract synth sound, it might be nice to have something, maybe not necessarily a piano, but something where we can really kind of like hear that chord progression a little better. Could be kind of cool. I also really like this part too. More of this sound and I wouldn't mind it. I think I've said this about a few of your songs, Jason. I do feel like the intros do go on for a little bit long. And I say this about a lot of house music, really. But I think this intro could be a little bit shorter just because like, you want to get to the meat and potatoes of the track a little faster than that, I think. Even though like this is cool, I don't mind this, but like this is really what's doing it for me. So up to you, however long you want or shorter you want the intro to be. But this just might be my personal bias against the long intros in house music showing. Yeah, really solid work. This is actually I think one of the best songs that I've heard from you, I think. Or one of my favorite songs that I've heard from you, at least. Sweet. So at this point, this is going to be the last track of the day because we are nearing time for the stream to end. I do want to let everybody know that I greatly appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, sharing your feedback, sharing your tracks, making this whole thing work, because without you guys, it's not really anything. So I will be back on Monday for an office hours stream. So I hope to see you guys then. If you want to come in and ask me any questions about making music with Live. But we're going to dive into a track from Mr. Starbeast, who we haven't seen in a while, and I'm stoked to hear what he's working on. Nice. There is a lot of stuff going on here. I like what's going on, though. I think it sounds really cool. You got a lot of really interesting sound design choices that I think work really well. And I think in terms of arrangement for a kind of dubstep-esque kind of track, you made some pretty interesting choices, which I think actually serves the track really well. So to start off, I like your kind of like glitchy vocal part you have. However, it sounds like you have some delay after the buffer shuffler, and I think that's a little too busy. I think it's a little too much. So I think keep the delay, but tone it down, both in this part and especially in this part. Like this part sounds really cool, but there's way, way too much delay on there, and it's really distracting from the glitchiness of the original part. So it's true for both of those vocal parts, but especially true for the second time. Tone that way down. On top of that, crank up the volume on those bad boys. They sound really cool, but they're competing with a lot of things. Yeah, the ping pong delay will definitely do that to you. Yeah, really make them stand out a bit more, because you have that kind of like groany, growly sound, which I would also turn down a little bit, but it's just eating up all the space in the mix. So when the growl part is happening, you can't hear the actual vocal part at all. And I think even though it's a glitchy, weird, kind of messed up vocal part, you still want it to be audible and you still want it to be a main focus of the track. So watch out for that on the mix there. Yeah, still a little bit too much reverb and delay on here. I do feel like a little bit more of a build into that happening could be cool. If you like it just kind of coming out of nowhere, go for it. Maybe either a little bit more negative space, so like let that vocal echo out for a while, and then you hit them with the big like dubsteppy part, or either a little reverse sound, something to kind of indicate that something is about to happen is really nice. All right, and then this section, which I love, but it's got a major issue, which is the mix is all over the place. It sounds to me like you have like 2 to 3 different grimy, distorted, dubsteppy bass sounds happening at the same time. And not that you can't make that work, but one of the tricks I've learned from trying to make this music for a long time is that when you hear a lot of those really clean, really big, really heavy mixes of this style of music, there's only 1, maybe 2 sounds happening at a time. It's like sound number 1, and then sound number 2, and then sound number 3, and then sound number 4, and it goes back and forth. Because when you have, the more sounds you have simultaneously, the quieter they all have to be, right? Because they can only combine to get to so loud. So by having less sounds happening at a time, even if that amount of time is an 8th note or a 16th note or quarter note or whatever, you have 1 sound gets its time to shine, and then the next one, then the next one, and then you kind of mix them together so it all sounds like one morphing, shifting sound, but really it's like 1, then the next, then the next. And that will, number 1, allow each sound to be louder, and number 2, make it way easier to mix, because it sounds like there's like a couple different things happening simultaneously in the background here, and those are just, it's going to make it real tricky to make that sound like a big heavy drop like that. So I'll try that method and see what you can do. Just remember that like when you take things out, you're giving more space for other things to be louder. So that's the big issue on both of your dubsteppy droppy parts. Try that out and see what kind of difference that makes. Yeah, you have 1 longer note bass sound, and then you have a couple squelchy sounds, and like maybe a couple others in there. So you're gonna have to do a lot of like what I call like subtractive arrangement, where you just like delete little bits and pieces here and there. So you strip it down so it still sounds like a lot of sounds, but like you're only getting 1 or 2 at a time. Not necessarily keep it basic. Like you can still have lots of sounds, but try to limit yourself to 1 or 2 sounds at a time. Like you have this long bass line, and then you have a bunch of sounds that are changing up top of it. So you might need to like have the long bass line come in bursts, and then have the other sounds in between them, and that might be more effective. Or you might need to turn down the longer notes and then to give more room for your sounds that are switching back and forth, more room. Hopefully that makes sense. I like the vocals though. The vocals are really cool during that section. I like that you're leaning into the dubby element over here. Like this part would be dope just with a way less delay on there. Some of your background sounds here, I feel like also have a little bit too much reverb on them. Not a huge deal, but it's subtle. Yeah, people always forget that the origins of dubstep are in dub, and a lot of like old school dubstep really actually you can hear those dub influences, and not so much anymore. But that's, you know, it's an important part of the musical history to get us to where we are today. This part, just in general, I feel like needs a little bit of love in terms of mixing. There's a few sounds that I think are really cool. There's some like weird vocal chops and things like that that are a little bit quiet. Maybe bring those out a little bit more. But as a concept, I like this section a lot. Yeah, just remember in like dub music, one of the things that makes it interesting is negative space, right? The space in between the sounds. That's why reverbs and delays are so interesting in dub music. It's like you have a sound and then it echoes out for a really long time with nothing in between it, right? So remember, negative space is your friend when you're doing this kind of music, and deleting things, getting rid of things, trimming things down in your arrangement can be very, very helpful in being able to not only hear everything, but also create that sense of space and sense of dub in your dub influence track. I feel like you should let this arpeggiator do its thing for a really long time. Just like just have it do that for a while, so it sounds kind of it's glitching, and like then come in with the beat. That could be cool. Up to you if you want to try that out. But just have it like repeat for like 2 bars of just that same sound, and then you get to the beat. Yeah, and then this has the same kind of issues the first one does, where it's just clear up a lot of space, get rid of a lot of things so you can hear everything and make everything louder. But yeah, that's gonna be it for in terms of what I'm thinking about this track. I think it sounds, again, I really like the concept. I think it definitely works really well, but it definitely does need some cleaning up and a lot of just kind of removing things here and there. But I appreciate you sending your track in. Sweet. So we got through a lot of tracks today. Once again, I appreciate everybody for sending me all the stuff you've been working on. It is all greatly appreciated. And like I said, I'll be back on Monday or sometime next week. You guys have a good weekend. Keep working on some tracks. I got a bunch of tracks I'm working on now. I'm 4 weeks deep into my Song a Week challenge. And I got a bunch of updates and things about those tracks that I will be putting out into the world very soon. But yeah, you guys have a good one, and I'll see you later.